Hello, Jenny. Good evening to you, and a warm welcome to my YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
My viewers, that today we have this again one esteemed guest, and she is Jenny. She's a qualified nutritional and eating disorder therapist. She specializes in interventions, and preventions of eating disorders and body image issues among young people. So she's gonna give us the wisdom about the work that she does, and we're gonna learn a lot about from those kind of things from her. So enlighten us, Janie.
Yes, no, great. No, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, so I run a non-profit organisation in the UK. So I go around schools and universities delivering workshops to both the staff members and the students around the importance of early intervention of eating disorders. I also deliver workshops to parents as well on how to help your child have a healthy relationship with food and body image. And then with the students, I do cover topics around, how to have a healthy relationship with your food, body image, and how social media does affect, especially TikTok. That's a massive platform that young people use. So looking at how social media does impact their eating habits and their overall body image as well. So
And like from my personal experience, I deal with a lot of children. And when it comes to eating disorders, I'm not sure whether it's a kind of thing that comes under your category. But a lot of people, like in India, a lot of children, they don't like to eat home cooked food. They are usually they try to eat outside food, junk food that is not suitable. So
okay.
what sort of advice can parents give to their children that they might not sound offensive, and even children can take their advice?
Yeah, I mean, junk food is obviously very appealing, it tastes good, and it's convenient.
Hmm.
So it's quicker as well. So and it's got a very addictive flavor. It's if they're loading it with sort of processed fats and sugar, that's really your brain's going to want more of that, right? So and it's quick and easy food. So it kind of hits that reward system in the brain, that kind of feel good feeling. That's what junk food does. So but it's I'm all for moderation, right? I'm not going to say right, cut it completely because then you'll just want more of it. If you say to someone, cut it, naturally as a human, we're going to want more of it. So I think that I'm a believer of everything in moderation. Yes, we should be
Yeah.
eating less processed food and less junk food. And obviously, I think that we've all just forgotten how to cook, like because there's just so much convenient food out there that we don't and I hear a lot, and I totally get it. We all live busy lives, especially if you're on a business, like it's very stressful and it's time. So what I hear from a lot of, parents as well, they don't have time. It's their
Mhm.
big thing. They don't have time to cook, or they don't have time to do this or time to do that. So, and I totally get it. And then when you have kids, it's added stress on top. So I think it's really important to think about seeing food as that platform for your health, because if you're eating a bad diet, if you're constantly eating junk food, it's not healthy for us going forwards, and it's not healthy for our overall gut health as well. I don't know if you learn a lot about that in India, so like your gut microbiome. So we want to feed it like lots of fiber and stuff to feed our good bacteria in our guts, because there's a lot of connection now between our gut and our brain,
Right.
and it's sort of research going into that, things like depression, anxiety, and obviously, more junk foods, you're putting yourself at higher risk of things like being overweight,
Mhm.
leading to obesity. So I think it's just looking at, I do think that healthy eating has become like people have just made it really complicated. It's
Yeah.
it's not hard. Like it's just and just focusing on easy recipes that you can go to the
Mhm.
supermarket and trying to pick out food that is not pre-packaged, like choose the whole food. Make cooking at home a thing that you can do together, involve your kids in it, get them involved in the process of making food. It's a family activity. So that would be some suggestions. And kind of I think that we do need to see what we put in our bodies and how it's affecting our health, because we can't keep eating that food on a daily basis, because it does put us more at risk of things, of certain illnesses. It does.
Definitely. And when you meet this sort of children, like in schools and all, as you're a like speaker as well, what is common sort of pattern that you noticed among the children, Jenny, that this is not the right in terms of eating disorders and other habits as well?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've worked in schools in the UK and I've also worked in international schools. So I've been to
Okay.
Brazil and I've worked in
Wow.
schools out in Brazil. So I can comment on what I've seen, in the UK and of what I've seen in countries in Brazil. And other schools. I've liaised with a couple of schools in Portugal as well, so like Spain. And they all tell me the same thing, which is kind of worrying, is that the kids don't want to eat in school. So they don't like eating in school and they don't like eating in front of other people. So I hear that a lot in schools, or they don't want to eat lunch at school, they'd prefer to eat it at home. They don't want to eat the school food. I mean, the schools I worked in Brazil, they were amazing. They had amazing food, but they didn't want to eat it. They didn't want to eat lunch in school. Um, and I got a lot of feedback, some from some students that I've worked with, that they've got a fear of being judged for how much they're eating in front of other people, or they're worried about someone making comments on their food, or worried about being called fat, in front of other people. So that's also like fat shaming. A lot of that goes on in schools. And I do see a lot of disordered eating. So, basically coming into school, not eating breakfast, or snacking throughout the day, and then they end up overeating in the evening because they haven't eaten enough during the day. So if they haven't sort of eaten regularly, or they've skipped breakfast and had something little at lunch, they'll risk overeating or binge eating in the over evening. And then that can kind of lead to disordered eating habits basically over
Wow.
time.
Wow. And I guess there are terms for it, anorexia, right? Where you don't want to eat anything, I guess. That's the term.
Yeah. So anorexia has typically gone up here in the UK. So yeah, in Brazil it was huge. They had a massive sort of influencer culture, and kind of Brazil they were very heavy on plastic surgery and stuff like that, and uses of actually weight loss drugs were quite huge out there.
Mhm.
So the Ozempic drug, I'm not too sure how big that is in India at the moment, but we've got a problem with it here in the UK, where Ozempic is being misused, basically. So originally that drug was meant for type 2 diabetes, but people have been using it. It can be prescribed as off-label for weight management in the UK, and people have been misusing that drug for weight loss here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and there's lots of side effects around using this drug as well, that that people are just kind of not reading into enough, and kind of that it was typically made for obesity and type 2 diabetes to help people lose weight initially, but people were getting a lot of side effects from it as well. So we've had issues around that, and I saw that was quite heavy in schools like in Brazil that I worked in, because they had a massive sort of thin culture there. So this sort of they wanted to be thin, they desired to be thin, and we have that here in the UK, but it was a bit stronger out in Brazil, for sure. And I also seen a lot of over exercises and under eating, so that kind of addiction to the exercise and restrictive eating. I see that a lot.
Wow. And like when it comes to like if I talk about the people who are not into junk food like me, like I tend to eat only home cooked food. But what bothers me is that the process of making the food, like
Yeah,
nowadays the vegetables and the fruits, everything are grown with pesticides, insecticides. Like they are not grown with the like in an organic manner. So even though if I eat the good stuff, there is still some sort of element which is not good. So, what
yeah.
to do about
Yeah, I was having a discussion with someone about this today who used to work in the industry, and it does depend on what country you're in, and it also depends on the type of pesticide that's used.
that? Okay.
Yeah. So that is something that would need to be deep researched into, and saying, okay, fine, right, what type of pesticide is actually used with this fruit? Like, what are they using? How harmful is that to our human health? Like, how's it going to harm our gut bacteria? I mean, this is all still new research. They're still sort of researching this. They don't know. Um, but also, it's very hard, right? You've got, okay, fine, you take an apple or something. In the UK, I know they use a lot of pesticides on it. Or, you eat the protein bar, which is processed and it's loaded with
Yeah,
refined oils. So what are you going to choose?
that's the
you know,
dilemma.
you can't win. So, I think that you have to eat to survive. Food is fuel. But I think that if in everything in moderation, organic food is really expensive, especially for families who can't afford it, and they need to eat. They need to provide food for their family because we want to avoid sort of food insecurity and things like that, because I know that can be quite big, especially in some of the areas that I've worked with. So I think that, what we have in the UK, there is a list of foods, and it will obviously apply to India, that are sprayed less with pesticides. So certain like fruits and vegetables, and you can find that information from your local sort of farming and kind of website for your country to see if you are concerned about that. You could look at, right, this feed is sprayed less with a pesticide. Let's choose more of these feeds rather than choosing, another piece of fruit that's heavily sprayed, and thinking about eating seasonally as
Mm,
well. So if you eat something that's in season,
yeah.
then it won't be sprayed as much. So, but if we've got fruit and veg all year round here, that we're not really meant to have that.
Mm,
So, eating seasonally, would help that. And there's not enough research to sort of say, if you eat this amount of pesticide, you're going to, develop this illness or this disease. This is still new research. We don't know.
yeah.
Um, but I am curious about how pesticides are changing our health and our gut microbiome. Like I would like to know personally more about that myself. So
Makes sense. And Jenny, like, what are the things that you follow in your diet? I'm sure as you are
yeah.
advocating these things, your diet must be like top notch, So even I can take some because I'm a yoga trainer and I do have I put a lot of emphasis on the diet. Like I don't consume outside food, added drinks, nothing,
Yeah.
simply home cooked food.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I was very lucky. So I was brought up with when obviously my mum and dad like cooked. We always cooked like home cooked meals. We never had any takeaways or ready meals or any sort of, if I
Nice.
had a McDonald's, it would be very rare, for example. So if you're brought up in that family environment, then you're more likely to develop those habits later on, like, and kind of want to cook and kind of if you've been brought up in that environment, which I think is good. Um, so, and I do love cooking. Yeah, I run a business, so sometimes, I do get a bit lazy, that happens. So, I'm not going to say I don't have a takeaway because I do, but I don't have it every week, I don't do that. Like I'll have it, okay, once a month. I don't know, something like that. But generally my diet, so there's been a lot of a talk about, and it's interesting you bring up processed food. There's been a lot about that in the UK here.
Hmm.
We've been talking about it a lot about ultra processed food, what's processed and what's not. Um, and for me, yes, I do eat processed food, but I'm talking about a wholemeal bread because that has been processed to a certain degree versus a sourdough, which has been fermented. So there's a difference. Okay, so there's a difference. So if a food has got a lot of ingredients on it, it's processed.
Right.
So basically, this is what I just say to people just to help eliminate the overwhelm of like, what am I going to eat? So if a feed contains a lot of ingredients, then fine. Like emulsifiers, additives, it's processed. So, and it's saying, right, okay, maybe I don't want to. So what I try and do is I still eat some of those foods, but the majority of my diet does come from whole foods. So if I go into a supermarket, I will choose my protein source like eggs, chicken, fish, and then I'll buy, I don't know, potatoes to go with that and my vegetables. So that's been through a minimal amount of processing, right? Because I'm buying the whole feed. I don't buy too much packaged food. Like, sometimes I have a bit of cereal in the morning, but I'll have like a low sugar muesli. So, my diet does have processed food in it, but it's not completely organic, non-processed. That's just so impossible, unless you've got a chef cooking for you, because you'd have to put so much planning into that.
Yeah. When it comes to India, luckily, like most of us, we live with our parents, and like my mother is a homemaker, so she cooks
Okay,
delicious dishes all the time. Breakfast is like amazing, lunch, dinner, so everything is home cooked.
nice.
I'm lucky
That's
that.
cool. You sound very lucky.
And that's the reason for me, like I have set this mentality outside food is garbage. So no matter what happens, I don't like I treat my body as a temple, and I don't want to put garbage into it. So this
Yeah,
mentality
sure.
helps me a lot. So even sometimes
Yeah,
my parents, when they bring home cook like junk food, I simply tend to smell it, yeah, but I don't consume it. For me, it's
exactly. Yeah.
separate home cooked food.
Yeah, because junk food doesn't contain a lot of like nutrients or vitamins and minerals. So we get that from whole foods. So most of the time it will contain a lot of like saturated fat and like, refined carbohydrates, which aren't good for our health and our brain. They won't make us feel good. Yes, obviously it tastes good, but in the long run, it will make you feel really tired and sluggish, especially if the majority of your diet is coming from junk food. So
Hmm,
and you are, if you are doing that, you are putting yourself at more risk of diseases. So going forward.
definitely. And what are some of the things like if I tell you my example, I tend to consume a lot of honey, turmeric, this sort of good things like provided by the nature. So are there any
Yeah.
things like that you inculcate in your diet, Jenny?
So that was honey and turmeric you have a lot of.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, with honey, I'd always say, get a good local honey. Um, sometimes it's better to buy local honey because it's been through a certain process. It hasn't had anything added to it,
Mm.
like any sort of sugars or anything. So yeah, a good local honey is fine. And I have honey. So because I do a lot of sport, I'm really active. I need sort of like a bit of sugar, like in my diet. So I do use honey myself. Yeah, so I use a good quality butter as
Mm.
well, and like olive oil. So they're good quality oils. Because I know that was on the list to talk about oils as well. We'll get on to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, turmeric is really anti-inflammatory. I'd probably need to use it more and cook with it if I'm honest.
And yeah, speaking of oils, enlighten us, which are the right oils to consume and why?
Yeah, so I would always look for a good like extra an olive oil, so an extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed. You don't want Make sure it's not got like added refined oils in
Mm.
the label to the olive oil. So like cold pressed olive oil, cold extraction with olive oil, because the extraction process of the oil matters, how it's been extracted.
Hmm.
But a good quality olive oil is always good to go for. I know sunflower oil's used a lot and like rapeseed oil, so that's used a lot here. I would try to avoid those if you can because they are refined oils. They're not good for our cellular health.
Okay.
Um, so like you want to look at healthy oils for like healthy cells that help bring nutrients into the cell. So olive oil is really good. So things like flaxseed oil or a good coconut oil is good.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And in India,
Avoid avoid those hydrogenated fats. So like anything that's cooked at high heat, that's cooked quickly,
hmm,
yeah,
got it.
contains that's junk foods, not healthy for ourselves.
Makes sense. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned about sports, Jenny, like I would like to know, you look fit as fiddle, so how do you keep up with sports? What sort of sports and what do you do exactly?
Yeah, so well, I've recently started doing a bit more strength training.
Okay.
Um, yeah, just for kind of health reasons and like bone health and stuff and metabolism. because we all know the more muscle you have, the more energy you burn, basically. So I've started to kind of do more of that. So yeah, I I used to be a cross country runner, so I used to be
Oh,
very
wow.
into running.
Nice.
So back in the day, but I'm not good anymore. In all honesty, I used to be good. I used to run for my sort of my county here. But unfortunately, I've just got like overuse injuries at the moment, like in my knees and kind of like, hips. So basically, I've just done too much running. Um, so yeah, so what I do run a little bit, but I don't run as much as I used to. So I'll probably do like run one a week. I've started to get into a bit of cycling now, so I've got a
Oh,
bike.
nice.
Yeah, so I do a bit, and then that's less strain on my knees as well. So I do that. So I've just started to do that, so I enjoy that. And then yeah, in the summer, this is a bit of a crazy sport that I do. It's called slalom water skiing. So I do water skiing basically. So it's on one ski. So I do that in the summer.
Great, great. And
Yeah,
like weights, I guess after some age, once you like 30 or 40, then you start losing the muscle density. So for that reason, it's mandatory
exactly.
to lift weights, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, when you get to your sort of 30s, so that's what I've decided to do. In my 20s, it was fine, I was running a lot, I could get away with it. But as you get older, it's really important to like look after your joints and stuff. And yeah, as you get older, you do lose muscle. So the more muscle you put on, the better your metabolism you can be, the less fat you have as well. So yeah, really important like for weight training. So I lift quite heavy, so um, which I've seen, I've got stronger and I've seen the benefits of that as well. So, and I think it's nice to feel strong as well. So, because as you get older, you get a bit weaker. So, if you keep up that sort of strength work, it's good. And you only have to do like 2 lots of 45 minutes a week, just to get the benefits of it. It's not that much. So,
And what about ice baths? Do you ever take that, Jenny?
yes. Do you know what? I used to do that at the height of my training, for like muscle recovery.
Yeah.
Especially when I was running in my 20s. So I used to do a lot of that. For me, it helped me. For some people are different. Some people might benefit from like hot cold therapy or just hot bath but if I did a cold sort of ice bath, like it benefited me. I felt good. Like my muscles felt regenerated the next day. But there is new research out for women, especially when they get a bit older, that ice baths aren't good for their cortisol, their stress hormone.
Oh, I thought it's the like opposite of it. It mitigates the cortisol.
Yeah, so there's new sort of research out, like there's a certain temperature for women. So men is fine. Men can tolerate colder temperatures. But for women, especially when they get to sort of mid-30s and stuff, and if they've had an imbalance with their cortisol or they're very sensitive to cortisol, their stress hormone, ice baths aren't necessarily very beneficial because it can raise it a little bit. So you'd want, don't have an ice bath. Maybe have a cool bath, but not an ice bath. So
Mhm.
bit different for women. And I was quite shocked at that. So, and I've learned a lot from that because during my, when I was in my 20s and when I was suffering, because I had an eating disorder, so I had anorexia. So I had very high cortisol levels, so that's stress hormone. So I've had to work on like regulating that over the years, and that's also helped to improve my metabolism. So I'd also say that for people as well, like high stress levels, it's not good for our metabolic health.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I often take ice baths, like, and it helps me in maintaining my cortisol level. I feel like every time I take it, it
That's
mitigates.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For men, it's fine. Women, it's different. Yeah. I'm jealous at that because I feel like when I read the research, I was like, God damn it. But that's
And,
good. If you feel good on it, that's great.
and what are some of the things that people are not aware about in terms of nutrition, in terms of eating and exercise that you know and that you can enlighten us with, Jenny? Some common things in
Yeah,
general.
just common things that I see that people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think I've worked with a lot of clients who tend to think carbohydrates are really bad. And they just stick to high protein diets, which is not very good for our overall gut health and our cognitive function. So but it just depends on the type of carbohydrate that someone chooses. You don't want to go for like refined carbohydrates, like things like white bread, white pasta, go for more like wholemeal sort of based foods. So I'm talking about sweet potatoes, brown rice, so like slow releasing carbohydrates, ones that aren't going to spike your glucose. So carbohydrates aren't bad. It's just the type of carbohydrate that you're eating. And they're really important for our metabolism and they're our main energy source. So because your brain runs off glucose, which comes from carbohydrates. So I'd say, to people, don't be scared of them. And it also depends on the goal. If someone wants weight loss, then fine. We'd have to kind of make a few tweaks in the diet, maybe go a little bit more high protein, but don't go crazy low carb because you're just going to feel tired all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, and then when you've got an athlete, I eat a lot of carbs because I'm very active, so I need the energy. So it's so different. It depends on the goal of the person and what they're trying to achieve. That's what I'd always say because I work with a lot of people who just compare themselves to other people and what they're eating. And it's just like, well, why are you doing that? They might have different energy levels or they're a different height, they're a different weight, they've got different muscle mass. The worst thing you can do is compare your eating to someone else. So, and I see a lot of young people do that as well. So, but I think carbohydrates do get a bad rep as well. And looking at things like healthy fats as well, a lot of people have been scared of fat over the years. But it's the type of fat, right? We don't want too much saturated fat from like, meat, cheese, dairy. We want like unsaturated fat. So healthy fats like the good olive oil that we were talking about, avocado, nuts and seeds. Yeah, because they're really good for our like brain health and stuff. So I'd say there's a massive misconception around fats. I just think that's because people are confused, like due to like misinformation online and saying that fats are bad, and then someone says carbohydrates are bad. There's no wonder that people are confused about what to eat. So I'd also say that, you don't have to go on a diet. When people go on a diet, they restrict their calories too low and then they end up binging and then regaining weight back. I see a cycle of that a lot. So
Yeah, makes sense. And uh, I guess you are the right person, Jenny, to ask this question. $1 million question. What about coffee and ice cream and energy drinks?
yeah, sure. I mean, I love coffee.
Okay.
So who doesn't? I'd always say, oh yeah, I mean, some people don't love coffee, but I do. So I'd always say choose a good quality bean. So like just a good coffee bean. There's some great research out there why coffee is good for us, like polyphenols. But again, it's everything in moderation, right? So you don't want to have 5, 6 coffees a day, or if you're running off coffee, it's not good. So and for someone like me, because I naturally have higher stress levels and cortisol a little bit, I'm just that type of person. I try not to have too much coffee because that can raise my cortisol. So
Mm,
it's
right.
a stimulant. That's what coffee does. It's a stimulant. So it helps with my focus. Coffee, it does help my focus because it's a stimulant. Because yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD, last year, and my focus is bad. So I don't medicate my ADHD. So I sometimes have coffee a little bit to help me focus if I'm doing a strenuous task on the computer and if I need that bit of focus. So, I would just say if someone's overworking and they're running themselves off caffeine, then no, that's not good.
Makes sense.
Uh, So again, everything in moderation. And then yeah, with fizzy drinks, yeah, they're addictive. Having been on them myself and having to like wean myself off of it. I've worked with a lot of clients who are on the kind of like that monster drink. I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Monster energy drink. I know why, it's addictive and it tastes good. So
Monster and Red Bull, both.
yeah, Monster and Red Bull. The thing is with those, they contain synthetic caffeine.
Mm,
So it's not the same quality caffeine. Um, Yeah, and some people can get like anxious on that type of synthetic caffeine, so it can make them more anxious. If they're having a lower quality grade of caffeine. So because you're obviously your liver's processing it in a different way. It's synthetic. It's not a good quality caffeine. And they're not, they contain a lot of sweeteners
Hmm.
as well. And especially if kids are like, or students, I've seen a lot of students having those before exams or running off at that. It's not going to provide them with sustained energy because they'll just get a crash afterwards.
Hmm. And health-wise, like, do you think, obviously it's not right, but if I tell you honestly, Jenny, like, I used to drink it, a few months ago because there were
Yeah.
some days where I didn't like to, where I had these days where I don't feel like working out. So I used to drink a little bit of that, and then the energy, it comes up,
Yeah.
do a lot of push-ups and stuff. So that's the reason, not because I'm fond of it, but because for the sake of my exercise. So, what shall I do? Is
Yeah,
it
I totally get it. And I'm being honest, I used to have some of it as well. But with the addictiveness of the caffeine and the kind of the taste of it and the research that's coming out with all these sweeteners and how they're not good for our gut health. I would always say when you're feeling like that and you want to go do a workout and you're a bit tired, just have a good shot of a quality espresso, like just an
okay?
espresso shot.
Mhm.
Yeah, just have an espresso shot because at least you're getting the kind of, the coffee from a good quality bean and it's not synthetic caffeine.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So just have like just a shot of espresso. None of these pre-workout stuff that's loaded with complete rubbish. Like just a good quality espresso shot is fine.
Makes sense. And
Yeah.
like I'm not addicted, but I do like to eat ice creams occasionally. So, what's your
Yeah,
take?
that's fine. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I do. Like if I'm feeling a bit tired, I'll just have an espresso shot before. But if I'm tired from some days I do need to listen to my body and not have the caffeine. Because I'm someone that can run off of that and then I'll just crash, which we want to avoid.
And who are the fitness like people or icons that you admire, Jenny? That you feel like, wow, they are doing such a tremendous job.
Fitness icons, you mean?
Yeah.
In a particular sport or just in general?
And
Um, oh my God, that's actually a really good question. I'm just trying to have a think. I mean, I love tennis, so I watch a lot of tennis. So, because I used to play quite a lot, and I've had to choose a sport basically because I can't do everything. I'm not Superwoman, so
mm,
I used to be very into tennis. I think Nadal, like, and Roger Federer,
wow.
and Serena Williams, like three iconic. They are just amazing.
Wow.
Like what they were able to achieve in their career. And I always used to think how calm like Federer was when he was playing
Wow.
tennis. Like, how do you remain so calm? Like he was so composed. And I think Nadal was such a like, I don't know, he was just a machine. Like I watched one of his matches like years ago that he won, and it was like a 5 hour match, and it was live, watched it live, and I just thought that's crazy. That's just and what he was able to achieve in his career alongside Serena Williams as well. And what interests me about them is that I know the mindset that is required for that game, like, and to kind of keep mentally kind of on it in the game and the focus that they need, because I think tennis is mostly mental. So,
Yeah.
and I think that comes from a place of like real strength, and I admire that.
Wow. On that note, Jenny, I guess the meeting is compelling us to end it. So I would love to talk to you till the cows come home. However, we need to say goodbye. And I had such a whale of a time having this conversation with you. Thank you for your precious time and valuable knowledge. And I hope that we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.